The universe is not a chaotic collection of separate fragments, but a remarkably ordered system permeated with deep meaning. Every word, action, and thought of ours, like a small cog, contributes to the overall functioning of the entire mechanism. A small malfunction can, over time, grow into significant problems, destroying the natural order around it. All of us are part of this grand organism, whether it is the infinite universe or the divine body of the Creator. Just as a healthy cell affects the condition of the entire organism, so the actions of each person shape the destiny of our common home, planet Earth, and of our future generations. Although I did not have the chance in this earthly life to experience the joy of fatherhood, I deeply respect all children and parents, regardless of their country or culture. I am convinced that all of us are one big family. Many have simply forgotten this. Not wishing to wait any longer for miracles from outside, and striving to show love to all that exists, to people, animals, and the earth, I decided to try to change something in this world on my own, becoming that cog which seeks to preserve harmony and believes that it will become clear to others. Without love and unity, we will not be able to exist as a whole mechanism. Each of us is an inseparable part of a vast mosaic, where even the smallest detail plays its important role. The first step was the realization that change begins within us, namely in how we relate to ourselves and to the world around us. I understood that love and unity are not just beautiful words from films or slogans, but real actions that we can and must take every day toward others and the world. After all, ultimately, our world is a reflection of our thoughts and actions. And only with love and respect for one another can we create a harmonious future for our children. Before I begin to tell the story of my life, I want to open myself to you completely. For true honesty is one of the purest manifestations of love. That very love which 8 months ago I began to feel for all people, regardless of their nationality or beliefs. I feel deep gratitude toward everyone who, after the release of this book, will experience any feelings toward me, whether love or rejection. From the bottom of my heart, I bless all of you, without dividing anyone into right or wrong. There are no bad people in our world. There are only souls who have temporarily forgotten their true nature and feed on fear instead of love. Thanks to each of you, directly or indirectly, my soul will continually strive to create itself in love. An all-encompassing, unconditional love for all that exists, without division or bias. What once seemed divided and fragmented to me suddenly acquired an astonishing unity. Gradually, I began to see the connection between all phenomena and events. What happens to people, like invisible threads, connects every particle of our shared existence to one another. The fear that once governed many of my decisions gradually gave way to understanding and acceptance of myself as I am. It became clear to me that every person who crosses my path is a unique teacher, carrying their own special lesson. Even those who caused me physical pain or emotional disappointment in the past were, in fact, helping me grow and develop spiritually. In those moments when I had to face negativity or aggression, I simply did not see the pain and fear of another person. This understanding helps me remain in a space of love and compassion, even when it seems impossible. For every soul in the universe, even the most lost, deep down strives for love. What is especially valuable is that this transformation within me is not merely a philosophical concept or a beautiful idea. It is a living, practical experience that changes every aspect of my life. I am learning to see the divine origin in every person I meet, even if outwardly they seem completely alien or incomprehensible to my mind. Writing this book is not merely a desire to share a story with you in an esoteric style. It is a need of my soul to convey to you the understanding that came to me through personal experience. We are all parts of a single whole, and love is not just a feeling, but a fundamental law of the universe, the foundation of all that exists. It does not matter whether each of you who takes this book into your hands accepts these ideas or rejects them, but the very act of contact with you already creates ripples on the surface of the collective consciousness and serves the awakening of all. I deeply believe that we are living in an era of great change, when more and more people are beginning to awaken and return to their true nature. Each of us carries within an inner spark of divine love, and our task is to allow this love to shine ever more brightly, illuminating the path for others around us. Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under an upturned vessel. Instead, they place it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your heavenly Father. In this journey, there is no final destination. There is only an eternal movement toward ever deeper understanding and acceptance of what exists around us and within us. In this journey, there is no final destination. There is only an eternal movement toward ever deeper understanding and acceptance of what exists around us and within ourselves. My name is Matus Andrei Viktorovich. I was born in one of the suburbs of Luhansk in 1980. From my earliest childhood, my life was accompanied by restlessness and anxiety. In elementary school, I experienced fear toward any manifestation of attention directed at me. Poor grades, unfinished homework, and even simple interaction with older students caused me panic terror. A turning point in my character occurred in the 5th grade, when I decided to try on the role of a bad guy. However, this change of character, undertaken for the sake of protection, gave rise to a new major fear, the fear of appearing weak. The change in image led to the fact that I became an egoist, focused exclusively on my own needs. By the age of 32, serious problems with the law and harmful habits had emerged. Alcohol and nicotine caused significant damage to my physical and mental health. Before my first experience of samadhi, I lived like a robot, without reflecting on the higher meanings of life and fundamental questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? And where are we going? I pretended to strive for spirituality, although in reality this striving was more like a superficial interest. For most of my life, consciously or not, I caused pain to those around me with my words and actions, without understanding the consequences of my deeds. This path towards self-knowledge and inner peace helped me change not only my attitude toward life, but also my relationships with other people. I became more tolerant, attentive, and compassionate toward the problems and feelings of others. Of course, the work on myself continues every second, but I am grateful for every step that led me to a new understanding of life and myself. Now, my aspiration toward spirituality has become not just a fashionable trend, but a true challenge and the meaning of life. I learn myself and share my experience with others with one purpose: hoping that my path may inspire and support those souls who seek harmony and peace, but do not find it. In one of the religions, an inner voice began to conduct a dialogue with me. Gradually, an awareness came that this voice had become a guide on the path to self-knowledge and spiritual development. It gave me advice on how to respond correctly to certain life situations, reminding me that true strength lies in love and compassion, not in fear and anger. Often this voice brought into my consciousness thoughts that contributed to a better understanding of myself and the world around me. It helped me find a balance between material aspirations and spiritual searching. Every time I acted out of fear or turned away from the spiritual, the voice seemed to grow quiet and disappear. Gradually, this inner dialogue turned into an integral part of my spiritual growth and development, accompanying me almost every day, wherever I happen to be. Our inner voice is often perceived as intuition or an inner mentor. Such an experience can be very personal and significant, as it helps a person navigate life, find answers to difficult questions, and make decisions that correspond to their true nature and values. Many people who experience something similar note that this voice becomes more noticeable in moments of silence and inner calm. This can happen during meditation, walks in nature, moments of solitude, or in those moments when a person is truly focused on their feelings and thoughts. In such moments, the inner voice can guide. The main thing is to learn to understand such guidance. The connection with this inner voice is often strengthened through practices of self-knowledge, such as yoga, meditation, reading spiritual literature, or even creative expression through art. These practices allow a person to dive deeper into themselves, become aware of their true desires and goals, and learn to listen to their heart. However, it is important to remember that such an inner voice is not something mystical or supernatural. Rather, it is a manifestation of deep understanding and wisdom that exists in every person. It can be viewed as part of our consciousness that helps us become more aware. After accepting baptism in one of the Protestant Christian denominations, I spent several years enjoying fellowship with believing brothers and sisters. I even managed to become a Christian preacher, distributing the Bible from door to door. However, I soon decided to leave this religion. I do not want to name it now in order to avoid negative reactions from its opponents, because, in my conviction, all religions are from God. After voluntarily leaving Christianity, I subscribed to many esoteric channels on the internet and began studying a wide variety of books, striving to find the Creator with love and without fear. Perhaps during that period, I also created in my consciousness the image of a spiritual teacher who constantly comes into the world to change it and leave behind a trace filled with love and compassion. I admit that due to the intense search for truth in different religions, I may have developed a psychological problem. But what is remarkable is that even if the voice in my head is a product of imagination, its advice is always logical. By following it, I began to feel inner calm, regardless of external circumstances and problems around me. I realized that this inner voice makes my life more harmonious, helping me get rid of fears. Later, I became convinced that through this voice, the Creator Himself speaks. I believe in this. Why? Despite the fact that it may, possibly, be connected with psychological problems, nevertheless, being in this state brings me peace and a desire to do things with love for others, without egoism. My former wife also noticed these changes. How many tears my poor wife shed during the time of our life together, only God knows. But my gratitude to her will always be expressed with love and tenderness. Even if by the time this book is released, she creates a new family with another person. If this happens, I sincerely wish happiness to both of them. She remains a wonderful and remarkable person, and beside her there will be only the same wonderful and remarkable companion. Therefore, if this happens, I sincerely wish them happiness and love. I came to my former wife almost 2 years ago from Lugansk to America, and at the time of writing these lines, I am awaiting the divorce documents. And despite all of this, I will always speak of my former spouse only in the best way. She played an important role in my life. Memories of her will be warm and tender. I understand that each of us walks our own path, and consciously or unconsciously, but we both, some to a lesser degree, some to a greater, did things that led us to be at different points in life now. The divorce process became a motivation for further inner changes. Divorce led me to the understanding that an inner world and harmony with oneself and with others are the main components of human happiness. I realized that small deeds filled with love can change the world for the better. For each of us deserves happiness and love, and I believe that my desire to change the world alone in 2024 will eventually bring results. Even if those results come after me. In March 2023, after another argument with my wife, I went into one of the empty rooms and in a surge of emotion, dropping to my knees in front of the couch, addressed the Creator in prayer. This prayer sounded more like a demand than a request. Father, I have searched for you for so many years in religions and esoteric books, but what is their meaning? While everything in life is calm, we are calm, but as soon as something goes off plan, we lose faith and destroy relationships with others and with God. So maybe you do not exist, and perhaps God was invented as a tool to control people for the sake of power and money. But if you truly exist, Show me this in a way that I understand why, in stressful situations, I cause pain to others. Does my wife have grounds to be offended by me? I do not drink, do not smoke, do not cheat, but I am nervous. I admit that I do not want to be like this, but I still get nervous. If you, God, exist, explain this to me. And the Creator answered, literally. At first, the air around me began to waver, like on a hot day from high temperature, creating the effect of shimmering air. And then, I suddenly began to cry. But what was surprising was not that I was crying because of a nervous breakdown, but that these were my wife's tears, literally. It was a real physical hysteria. Tears were flowing from my eyes in a continuous stream. This went on for about 4 hours.
These tears were not meaningless. I felt resentment, but this resentment was directed at myself. From the outside, it looked as if I were experiencing immense grief. Because the crying was almost continuous, the sobbing stopped only for a couple of minutes, after which everything began again. And soon, due to the dilation of blood vessels, my face turned red. This was not just a psychological breakdown, but something more, which became obvious at the moment when, along with the tears, there arose a strong feeling of resentment, directed not at my wife, which might have seemed more logical in that situation, but at myself. On that day, I was given the experience of all the emotional pain that I had caused my former spouse. I did not drink, did not smoke, did not cheat. We lived together for only 1 year, and yet I caused so much suffering. During the continuous hysteria, not counting the pauses between sobs of 5 to 10 minutes, the state released me only for that brief time, and then everything began again over the course of 3 to 4 hours. Thoughts appeared in my head that I did not expect to hear there at all. Now I cannot remember exactly how long I cried that day, and I cannot reproduce word for word the thoughts that arose at that moment, but their essence was as follows. Andre, why are you doing this to me? Why are you making me suffer when I give you my love? It hurts me. And there were many other words that sounded in my head then. All of them did not belong to me, but to my former wife.
The tears and the body were mine, but the thoughts were Chuji, feminine, not my own. In short, the Creator truly answered the prayer. After the argument, my wife immediately left the apartment so as not to be in the same space with me, at the same time that I closed the door to pray, being in an emotional surge. When she returned, I came out of the room in a completely different state. As soon as she entered the apartment, I began to ask her for forgiveness for the emotional pain I had caused her over the course of a year. I did this not in order to make amends or reconcile, but because it was inwardly painful. About the suffering of the soul after death, if it is the Creator's will, and if I remain alive, I will write later in this book. But then I asked for forgiveness precisely for this reason. It was completely irrelevant to me what my wife might think of me for being the first to make concessions and fully acknowledge my guilt. For at that moment, my soul, and I firmly believe this, experienced a state of karmic reckoning and recognized its own essence. It was as if all the barriers and protective mechanisms of the mind had collapsed. It felt like an awakening, as though I saw the world in which I had lived through entirely different eyes. I had always considered myself a rational and clear-minded person, but in that moment, I understood how deeply mistaken I had been about myself and my life. Then a powerful and sincere desire arose within me to kneel before my wife and truly ask her for forgiveness, striving to change the situation even if it might wound my own ego. The ego receded into the background, and the soul remembered its true nature, unconditional love, free from egoism and fear. Words cannot convey the happiness I experienced that day. When my wife returned, I came out of the room with tears in my eyes and began asking her for forgiveness. I spoke of how deeply I loved her and how sorry I was that I was making her unhappy, even though with all my soul I desired the opposite. I realized that if I remained the same, I would continue to cause her pain. Yet, if I began to conform to her expectations by abandoning my own opinion, I would ultimately live a life that was hers, not mine. That evening, I suggested that we separate without any conditions, fully aware that without me, my wife would be significantly happier, even though it would be much sadder for me, at least for some time. This is the inner hell. When you realize who you are, yet are unable to live this realization in practice and start everything anew, and the pain becomes unbearable. Remember who you are, my son, the inner voice reminded me, but that day my soul knew it without any reminders. Love that does not seek its own and does not bring suffering to others. We decided to give each other freedom, the chance to discover ourselves, our true desires and hopes. That day was not merely a farewell, but also an acknowledgement that our shared path had come to its natural end. This experience taught me that love is not only our feelings and emotions, but also the actions we take for the well-being of others. At first, after listening, my wife reacted with distrust, believing that this was simply my way of trying to reconcile with her. However, after we went together to see the apartment I was planning to rent, her view began to change little by little. In March 2023, while still legally married, we began living separately. As a result, at the time of writing these lines, namely October 29, 2024, I was awaiting the receipt of the official documents confirming our divorce. Now that you know about the event that radically changed my life, I suggest returning to March 2023 and walking this path with me from the very beginning. Even if one were to assume that all of this was merely a product of imagination, how can one explain the fact that the more crazy I appear to the surrounding world, the more reasonable my actions seem to those who are close to me? Those close to us noticed this in our interactions as well. Although my relationship with my wife had changed, it continued to remain an important part of my life. We learned to communicate on a new level, without resentment or reproach, with respect for each other's choices. Our rare meetings became more sincere, and our conversations deeper. It was as if we were getting to know each other all over again, but this time as friends rather than marital partners. And now I am here, on the threshold of new possibilities, ready to accept the challenges that life presents to me. Although the path that brought me here was not easy, I do not regret a single step. Every experience, every encounter, and every decision made me who I am today. This is the inner hell, when you realize who you are, yet are unable to live this realization in practice and start everything anew, and the pain becomes unbearable. Remember who you are, my son, the inner voice reminded me, but that day my soul knew it without any reminders. Love that does not seek its own and does not bring suffering to others. We decided to give each other freedom, the chance to discover ourselves, our true desires and hopes. That day was not merely a farewell, but also an acknowledgement that our shared path had come to its natural end. This experience taught me that love is not only our feelings and emotions, but also the actions we take for the well-being of others. At first, after listening, my wife reacted with distrust, believing that this was simply my way of trying to reconcile with her. However, after we went together to see the apartment I was planning to rent, her view began to change little by little. In March 2023, while still legally married, we began living separately. As a result, at the time of writing these lines, namely October 29, 2024, I was awaiting the receipt of the official documents confirming our divorce. Now that you know about the event that radically changed my life, I suggest returning to March 2023 and walking this path with me from the very beginning. Even if one were to assume that all of this was merely a product of imagination, how can one explain the fact that the more crazy I appear to the surrounding world, the more reasonable my actions seem to those who are close to me? Those close to us notice this in our interactions as well. Before stepping onto this path, I want to confess that I voluntarily accept the role of a madman and stop resisting the thoughts that have pursued me for the past 7 years. I sincerely came to believe that the voice inside me is the voice of God. Why am I doing all this? In November 2024, nuclear weapons began to be discussed more and more frequently in the mass media and on social networks. Fear of them, consciously or unconsciously, is leading humanity to a dangerous line beyond which total destruction awaits us all. What is the life of one person compared to an entire planet? In the name of peace, people destroy one another by the tens of thousands every day, taking that peace away from others. Harmful habits that lead to fatal diseases, hunger, wars, interracial and religious hatred, low living standards in poor countries, and many other factors force me to reflect on the fact that if we continue to remain passive observers, humanity will eventually disappear as a species. Despite the madness that may become obvious to many after this book is published, I still understand that life will never be the same again, and it is unlikely that a book is capable of changing the world and eradicating hatred on a global scale. But it is worth trying, at least for my own sake. For the first time, having accepted my madness and made peace with it, I began to follow the advice of the inner voice, despite the difficulties this created for my ego in real life. It was in this state that I truly began to love all people, regardless of their country, nationality, religion, or culture. I realized that the soul exists in the air or in the body of the Creator, and that we are all one. We are all part of the body of the Creator. The love that the Absolute grants us without egoism is present in each of us. Many have simply forgotten this. I remembered, through madness perhaps, but I remembered. I sincerely believe that there are no bad people in the world. There are those who are full of fear, and because of this they are unhappy themselves and cause suffering to others. But at our core, we are all love. We have simply forgotten it. And if I, even through madness, have remembered that we are all love, I cannot help but try to change the world, at least a little, by freeing it from fear and stopping humanity at the line beyond which self-destruction awaits us all. Now that you know the reasons and motives that led me onto this path, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who will read this book. Thank you for understanding that I am not a writer and never have been. I do not know how to write by the rules, and as I mentioned earlier, I will write in the form of a diary with an esoteric inclination, if such a genre even exists in literature. Do not view this book as a work of fiction, but as the thoughts and reflections of a person who came to believe that God Himself was speaking to him, and who decided to share this experience with others, to try, through this book, to stop humanity from the self-destruction toward which we are all rushing at tremendous speed. Perhaps many will consider this nothing more than a product of my imagination, while others will see in these words a reflection of their own inner experiences. In most cases, that will be true. I do not ask you to believe me unconditionally. I ask only that you open your hearts and minds to what may at first seem unusual or even strange to us. I believe that within each of us lives something greater than what we are accustomed to seeing in ourselves. This book is not only my personal path, but also an invitation for all of us to reflect on our place in the world, on what we can do to change it for the better, and to leave our children a garden, not ruins. I realized how fragile our world is. We are like children playing with dangerous toys without thinking about the consequences. All of us have a chance to set things right, if only we can unite into a single whole. We are all capable of becoming carriers of love. Within each of us lie great abilities to give love and compassion. My goal is not to impose my beliefs on you, but to offer the possibility of seeing the world differently, through the prism of love and unity. In this madness, as I have already said, I came to understand that we are all connected by invisible threads, and that each of our actions echoes in the fate of others. May this book become for you not only a revelation, but also a source of inspiration. Perhaps it will help you see beauty in simple things, appreciate the significance of every moment, and feel that very love which I felt when I began to live one day at a time. You have the right to choose, to set the book aside or to continue reading. If you decide to continue, I once again express my gratitude for your patience and for your understanding that I have never been a writer and am not one now. From this point, I suggest returning to the moment when I first experienced samadhi and sharing what exactly I asked of the Creator on that day. I did not only ask to be shown why my wife was offended by me, I quite literally demanded explanations from God as to why I felt so bad and why I caused suffering to others, even when, in my heart, I did not intend to do so. If you, God, truly exist, then help free the soul from suffering, but do so genuinely, not as it was in the past when I went from door to door with a Bible, claiming that God is love, yet in stressful situations behave differently. No, truly. So that in this lifetime I might experience what it means to be a believer through personal experience of communion with God, and not through the experiences and words of others. I spoke emotionally that day, saying that God had a wonderful opportunity to help His children, through me.
On that day, I asked for help in writing a book, but not merely a work of fiction, rather something greater, something that would make people believe and follow me, freeing themselves from fear and filling themselves with the love of the Absolute. I completely surrender my body, mind, and soul into your hands. Only free me, and as many people as possible, from inner suffering. And the Creator answered. From the moment of the first experience until the writing of these lines, I have been in a state of samadhi 4 times, and saw an aura in the form of multicolored, transparent soap bubbles the size of a fist, about 1 meter in diameter, surrounding the physical body. I saw sound that had the form of a jagged green wave. I saw intelligent fear in various forms, which, if it is the will of the Creator and not my own, I will describe in this book in greater detail later. I saw that everything in the universe is moving toward the source, and that there are no sins, and that the air around us is the very kingdom of God. I saw and understood many things that day, which I will write about later, if, of course, there is a later for all of us, given our way of thinking and our hatred toward one another. Some may say that these are fantasies and hallucinations. Perhaps you are right. But the moment I believed in this madness as truth, my psychological state began to grow calmer, something that those around me also noticed. The Creator answered. And for me, as a person who believes in God, to deny this would be to deny God Himself. Therefore, on November 5th, 2024, I began to share my thoughts in this book. After becoming acquainted with them, many will consider me insane. Others will say that this comes from the devil, and much other negativity will be directed at me. But the voice inside said,
My son, you asked? Yes. Then receive the answer. The world in which you live is dual. No phenomenon can exist without its opposite. There is no criticism without praise, just as there is no love without fear. Some will hate you, others will love you. The choice is yours, my son, although in essence there is nothing to choose from. You chose love long before you became aware of it, and you continue to do so to this day on the pages of this book. You are afraid to write this book. This fear is connected to me. It is precisely fear of punishment that prevents you from remembering who you truly are. All of you are children of the living God. However, for most of you, the process of remembering becomes impossible because of your own choice. Consciously or not, only you place upon yourselves the yoke of the sinner. I do not consider you as such, and since all sinners are believed to be destined for hell, you invented in advance a way to avoid it by calling yourselves my slaves, even though in ancient times this title was a mark of honor. But for you it has become a source of shame and humiliation. It is fear of me that restrains you, child, from writing this book. You have come to terms with the possible negative reaction of those around you. Physical and mental difficulties frighten you less and less, yet you still fear hell, a place you have never seen, but where, in your opinion, you might end up because of this book. Therefore, continue to evolve spiritually with this book, and I will continue to support you on this path through your thoughts. My children, this way will help many free themselves from fear and feel my blessing while still alive, a path without attachment to results, filled with meaning and joy. Before we continue creating this book, allow me to calm your hearts and explain why you and all who follow your example will be able to create your own gospel with love without fear. The love of the Absolute that the first disciples of Jesus described in their messages. Each of them had a unique story based on personal experience of communion with me. Having witnessed changes in their own lives, they hastened to share this with others in order to pass on the love they themselves had experienced, freeing themselves from fear and believing in the words of Jesus. Every gospel and every message is unique, whether officially recognized or rejected by the church. For I speak to you in a language that is understandable specifically to you, using the images and masks you wear in earthly life. Messengers of truth in different religions knew everything from the beginning. They, like sincere believers of any faith, transmit my messages through the prism of their experience and vocabulary. That is why these messages differ so greatly. And all my messengers spoke of one thing. You are children of the living God. My children, I make no distinctions among you, and what is available to one is available to all. Yet often you do not accept my messages. The soul accepts them, but the mind demands proof, rejecting the truth. This way is the proof that these words come from me. This is a message that can help each of you find faith if you sincerely desire it. This message will help you free yourselves from sins, fears, and karmic knots, step by step drawing you closer to the light of divine truth, while purifying your divine energy and acting in harmony and love with the world around you. Your world is made of opposites, and you cannot be in two places at the same time. To appear in one, you must first disappear from the other. For something new to be born, the old must depart. To be, one must first not be. By comprehending the depth of my teachings, you will become true disciples, discovering genuine wisdom that grants liberation. This liberation will free you from the chains of fear and duality inherent in the world. The reality of most people is woven from opposites, not allowing them to exist in different states at once. To manifest in one, it is necessary first to withdraw from another. The birth of the new inevitably entails the departure of the old. Being is revealed through non-being. Wisdom says, new wine must not be poured into old wineskins, for they will not withstand its violent fermentation and will burst, spilling the precious contents. New wine requires new vessels, capable of preserving both it and themselves. Yet those accustomed to aged wine often regard the new with prejudice, believing that the old is always better. You are like precious vessels filled with divine essence. Within each of you already exists everything necessary to receive the great gift of awareness and unity with me. For you were created in my image and likeness, and a particle of my love lives in the depths of every soul. After awakening, fear and division, so familiar to your world, begin to dissolve like morning mist under the rays of the rising sun. You gain the courage to accept your strength and greatness, your potential as co-creators of reality. Let every step you take be infused with awareness, every word with love, every thought with compassion. This is how the divine manifests in the material, through your actions, your service, and your unconditional love for one another. I am always with you, in every breath and every heartbeat, hearing your call for help. Listen to the silence within. My voice sounds there. Look with the eyes of the soul. My wisdom is reflected there. Love without conditions. My essence is revealed there. Move forward without fear, for you are never alone, and every choice you make is an opportunity to reveal divine love. Remember that the more love you give to the world, the more it multiplies in your hearts. You return the soul to its original state and gain true freedom from fear and duality. Your world is built of opposites. The new is always born through the departure of the old. Just as new wine requires new wineskins, so new wisdom seeks new understanding. Yet those accustomed to the familiar often fear the unknown. Only by grasping the depth of my teachings will you become true disciples, discovering authentic wisdom that grants liberation to souls. It will free you from the chains of fear and duality, and only then will you be able to dwell in harmony, accepting the changes and challenges around you as part of the eternal cycle of life. The human subconscious can be likened to a vessel awaiting fulfillment. The wine within this vessel symbolizes your character, shaped by life experience accumulated through the perception of the world. To change one's character, it is necessary to begin by cleansing the subconscious of old patterns and limitations imposed by the ego. How this can be done, we will discuss later. For now, my beloved, I will tell you how to become a new person and attain true faith. Faith grounded in a personal relationship with me. Faith is the realization of what we hope for and the confidence in what is unseen. It is not merely beliefs based on the experience of others, but your personal path leading to true understanding and communion with the higher. It is precisely this path that will help you remember who you are and why you came into this world. My signs and symbols are all around you, yet you do not notice them. Consciously or unconsciously, you pass by my messages. Messages that could help many of you uncover the truth. Everything that is brilliant is simple, and everything that is simple is brilliant. So that my words may become for you not merely esoteric reflections, but true salvation, I will begin with a simple yet profound explanation. Fractals, which surround you everywhere, are astonishing hints of how, if you so desire, you can recreate yourself within a single lifetime, becoming a better version of your former self. These incredibly complex yet elegant geometric structures demonstrate how something astonishing and uniquely new can emerge from the simplest elements. So it is in your life. At times, small but meaningful changes in thinking, behavior, or habits can lead to deep personal and spiritual transformation. Just as each fractal consists of repeating yet infinitely diverse patterns, so you too can reshape your thinking again and again, discovering ever new facets of your emerging spiritual self. You need only look more closely at the world around you, listen to your inner voice, and find within yourself the resolve to move forward. And then, one day, you will discover that you have become a completely different person, more harmonious, purposeful, and fulfilled. For the possibilities for self-transformation are limitless. One need only view them from the right perspective.